Hey, good morning. My name is Eric, and this is RevMatchTV, and we are here today in the canyons with my friend Fenton Zygrene. He just did a video on this car, so I'm going to link it down below. You can go check out his channel. First time he drove the car. What did you think of the car, Fenton?
It's honestly one of the best cars I've driven all year. I wasn't expecting that, and then I'll go into that in the video, but I think you could tell I was excited to drive it.
You're excited. So what I'm going to do today is, I know there's a lot of reviews on this car, but the people that have been following me for a long time, they have been looking forward to a review of this car. So I'm going to vlog it up, do a little bit of a review of my thoughts on the car in the canyons. I've been driving this car for about 2.5 weeks now. I've got almost 3,000 miles on the car. Can you believe it? I'm going to SEMA with this car, so this is the last time that this car is going to be stock ever, probably. So I want to drive it, give you my impressions of the car. And by the way, I want to thank my sponsor, which is Garage Pro. Garage Pro has a reader that can read the codes on your car. You just plug it into the ODB port on your car, any car after 1996. If you like working on cars, like I sometimes do, and if you have to work in cars, you need to read the codes, it is my go-to reader. And what's really cool about it is they provide email support right in the app. You can email them if you don't know what a code is. They get back to you almost right away. I've got a link down below in the description, and it's definitely my go-to reader. I really like it. Go check them out. I've been driving this car about 2 weeks now. I've got almost 3,000 miles on it, just a hair below that. Overall, my impressions of the car are really, really good. Obviously, I'm a little bit of a fanboy because I have this car. I do like the interior. The switchgear is BMW, however, the rest of it is not. It's Toyota. It's got real carbon fiber here, which is really nice. I think it's actually super comfortable to drive. The seats are super supportive. They're very comfortable for the long road trip, and they're also pretty, they've got a lot of bolstering here for the canyons as well. So that's something that I like. Not the biggest fan of the way the steering wheel looks. I do like the feel, but let's take a quick spin and I'll give you my driving impressions. So one thing I notice about this car right away is that it does have a very short wheelbase. It's 97.1 inches. It's so short, it's basically up there or down there with the Miata, which is in the low 90s. So it does have really, really quick turn-in, which is nice. The steering is quite responsive and quite accurate. I drove this compared to the BMW M2 back-to-back last weekend. I wish I had videoed that. I didn't, because the cars are both stock. And compared to the M2, me and the M2 owner both thought that this car was a little bit more easy to push. The car is a little more forgiving and just a little bit easier to drive fast. Compared to the M2, this has definitely got more compliance on it. Now this does have two modes, of course. It has the regular mode, the street mode, and sport mode. When you put it in sport mode, a number of things happen that are kind of exciting. For example, you get the delicious crackles and pops from the exhaust when you downshift. You also get the adaptive dampers that move into sport mode. They get a little bit stiffer. The throttle response a little bit different, gets a little bit more aggressive, and the transmission shifts differently. It shifts at a higher RPM by default, and it shifts a little quicker and a little bit firmer too. So I think one of the things that I really like about the way that this car drives in the canyons is that it feels so nicely integrated. It really feels there a lot of development time into this car. I mean, so for example, a lot of cars I think, that I drive, there's something about them, it's like, hey, I wish it had a little bit more of this or a little bit less of that. Like there's a little bit too much understeer, or the brakes, don't feel that good, or there's something quirky about the handling. This to me feels like everything is sort of an integrated whole, like they've baked the pie and they've baked it and it's all one delicious pie of snap, crackle, and pop, and a little bit of, BMW, little German, little Japanese pie. But there's nothing that sort of stands out as like, I wish it had more of this or less of this. So that is a really, really good sign of a car. And I was talking with my friend Zygrene a couple minutes ago. You can check out his review. One of the things that he found about the car with the transmission is that he wasn't wanting for a manual transmission. And I've been thinking about this for a while. I am a die-hard manual purist. I love my manual transmission. I have always had manual transmission cars, and I still love them. I do enjoy them. On a day-to-day basis, driving it around in the city, this is better, but this is also a very, very responsive automatic transmission. I have no complaints about this. It shifts every bit as quick as a DCT. It doesn't quite have the feel of a DCT, but the transmission is super responsive when you pull the paddles. If I downshift it, it just downshifted so quickly. The upshifts, it bangs them off too. Now, obviously, I'm not on it right now, so the transmission is adapting to the way I'm driving. Pretty low RPMs, about 3,000 RPMs right now, and I'm, behind a motorcycle over here, so it didn't, crack off that shift. But when you're on it and you pull that pedal, cracks off the shift super quickly. Same thing with the downshift. And one thing I like about it is that in a lot of cars, when you pull the paddle, sometimes it just doesn't give you the gear. It's like you're turning and it doesn't give you the gear, or your rev's a little bit too high, it doesn't give you the gear. This gives you the gear every single time, and it will hold all the way until red line. Something that I like, something that is, I think, important when you are sport driving, when you're driving the track, and I plan to take this on the track as soon as possible. Let's talk about the compliance, the suspension compliance, and the way the suspension feels in this car. So this is a pretty nice bit of road over here that I'm on in the canyons, but in a moment we're going to get over to some rougher surfaces, so maybe we'll talk about that when we get over there. But on a smooth surface in sport mode, the thing that does strike me, at least driving in the street, like most people are going to be driving these cars, is it is very compliant. And that's a good thing, in my opinion. Some cars are just too stiff for their own good, and they're a little bit nervous, and it's a little bit more difficult to drive them quick, and it doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. Okay, now we're going to get onto this poor surface here. In this car in particular, it has got a lot of compliance, and it does inspire confidence. So now we're on it in the canyons. Whew. And okay, so this road surface is poor. To drive this car quickly over a poor surface. It just soaks up the imperfections, and the car grips. It just digs in and grips, and it doesn't feel like it's bouncing across the pavement. You can probably see the camera is bouncing around a little bit. I'm driving quickly here, and it's just not a problem. It just hooks up and it just grips. It just grips, and there's no understeer that I can discern driving around in the street. Certainly the car is a little bit tail happy. The car wants to rotate. I think it's kind of fun on the track. Some of my friends said it is quite loose. Looking forward to experiencing that myself. But over here, it is just hooking up. And I'm driving safely, but I'm not driving slowly. So let's talk about the engine now in this power plant. So this is the B58 engine. Papadakis Racing has got an amazing teardown of the engine. He talks all about how he's going to get it to 1,000 horsepower, and he talks about the design behind this engine too. The power band is really broad and wide. There's a ton of torque at the bottom of this power band, and frankly, it doesn't feel like a turbo car. Like that or not, it doesn't feel like a turbo car in the fact that you get this big giant build of power. It's got torque all the way down from about 1800 RPM, something like that. You're getting all the torque available, and that is well over 400 pounds-feet of torque in the stock car on dynos. These things are putting down ridiculous numbers of torque. What people are getting on stock cars right now is about 340 to the wheel in horsepower, and around 400 on the torque on a completely stock car. And obviously you can wake these cars up a lot with a little bit of a tune and a downpipe, and that's what everybody's doing right now. But just the overall driving impression is, I really enjoy driving this. It's really a lot of fun. I've driven a lot of cars. This is quite good, I think. The brakes are really solid as well. A very enjoyable car to drive in the canyons. I really do like it a lot. Obviously, I'm a big enthusiast of this car. I gotta compare it to my 1M, but frankly, this car drives better than the 1M. That is a Frankenstein car. That's what makes it a lot of fun, for one thing, but it is not perfect. It's an imperfect car in a lot of different ways. It's got some quirks and it's got some character to it. This is, perhaps if there's one criticism I could say of this car, it is a little bit clinical, perhaps. My impressions in the canyons are this car is a blast to drive. I've been enjoying it so much. The suspension tuning is something that I just talked about a second ago that I think is one of the high points of this car. The way it grips the road on a poor surface, moving pretty quickly, inspires a lot of confidence. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of magic going on with the traction control, the vehicle stability control. There's a lot of magic going on there because it's a short wheelbase car. But, you know, that aside, I've got this in sport mode, so I've got stability, you know, partly on right now. It is very confidence inspiring. It doesn't feel nervous. Compared to a Porsche Cayman, yeah, the Cayman does have that sort of last bit of refinement, but, oops. That wasn't the transmission, that was me. I shifted too late because this car does rev really quickly in first gear. But back to the Cayman for a second. That car, like the 718, and even the previous generations like the 987 that I had, and the 981, which has the 6-cylinder, those cars have a sort of a level of refinement that we're not quite there here, but the price is significantly less than the Cayman S. For example, the Cayman S right now bases at about $70,000. This car, the base is $50,000 on it, so that's a $20,000 difference. That's a lot of money. I don't know how many people are cross-shopping them, but I think Toyota has done a really fine job making this the target, making, you know, the Cayman is the target of this car, and they've done a really good job of getting, you know, I think most of the way there for a fair bit less money. This is probably, I don't know if it's a faster car. It probably is a faster car in a straight line, or it's very similar to that. I don't have the numbers in front of me. Probably quite similar, but this is doing the quarter-mile stock somewhere in the 12-second range, 12.5, 12.6, 12.7, something like that. 0 to 63.9 in this car, but mainly it's just a fun car to drive. It just really hits all those little tingly things that I like, and it does provide a lot of feedback. Yes, it has electronic steering, so does every car nowadays. I think this is pretty good. I think it's better than most of the BMW electronic steering that I've driven. Certainly it's far better than the M2, which had absolutely no feel at all. The M3 has no feel at all in the steering. I don't know what BMW is doing, but the steering has been horrid lately. This is pretty decent. This is certainly a step above any recent electronic steering M car that I've driven in terms of steering feel. And the overall feedback in here, I know Zygrene and I were talking about this. This does have some body roll. I think that's great because it's communicating to me what's going on with the car. And also, with stock tires like this, you need a little body roll. You need the car to roll over in the tires to put some weight on, to generate some grip, and you need that to happen not too quickly because in a stock tire, it's fairly like a non-track tire. It's a little bit harder than a track tire, so you need to move onto the tire with the weight transfer, you know, a little bit progressively. So that is my impression of this car. I can't wait to get to SEMA. Can't wait to mod this car. I've got 2 weeks to get there. Are we gonna do it? I got some wheels. Can't show you yet. Sorry about the last video. I can't show you the wheels just yet. But I've got suspension that's going to be powered by feel in the next couple of days. We have a wing coming from APR. We're working on exhaust. I can't wait to mod this car. I'm going to be at SEMA with a whole bunch of really cool people, and European Auto Group is going to be there. Art's going to be there with his manual swapped Supra. I can't wait to see that. Super excited. Let me know down in the comments below what mods you want to see in the car. This is the last time we're going to see it stock, and I definitely want to thank my Patreons who get early access to my videos. Squirrel Pope, Marlboro Ferrari, Real Six, Furious Grummel. I've probably named some that aren't even Patreons anymore, but I appreciate each and every one of you. There's a couple videos here up on screen. My name is Eric, and I will see you in the next video.